Where were you born and where did you grow up?
I was born in Vancouver, British Columbia, and my folks came to the United States when I was 4 years old. So I came with them to California, and so I grew up and down California. My dad's a banker, and so he managed the branches of a small bank in a few different places, but I ended up going to high school in San Carlos, which is on the peninsula.
Do you have any siblings?
I do have a brother, and he's a chaplain in the military in Canada.
Oh, older or younger?
He's older.
Tell us a little bit about your parents and their values and how they influenced you.
My parents are very funny. They are, my mother was born in Newfoundland. She's a Newfie, which is, of course, way on the east coast of Canada on an island. They call it the Rock. And she never went to college and grew up in a great Irish family. My dad, his father emigrated from Sweden when my grandfather was in his teens, and ended up, and my dad was born in Canada as well. Very poor, extremely poor. No running water or anything like that. And when he was raised, his father ended up, died when he was 3 years old. So he was raised by his mother, who was Norwegian, couldn't speak the language. He's got several siblings, so he had to leave home and work in the logging industry in Canada to provide, some income back. He's extremely hardworking. My dad is a stoic Swede. I've never heard him once utter a swear word, never heard him raise his voice. He would get up at 4:30 in the morning and go to work and come home at 7 o'clock at night. He was the model of industriousness. And so those values about hard work, and for my folks who never got a chance, neither of them, to go to college, education was critical.
So along those lines, after high school, you didn't go straight to college.
Yeah, I don't know why they let me do that. Totally goofy. Totally goofy. So I left after high school and went to LA to become an actress. What a dumb thing that was. But actually it was a good thing, because it certainly showed me that was not my course. And so I was there for a couple of years, and my only famous part was I got a spot on the dating game. And so me and Arnold Schwarzenegger have that in common. but I soon caught wind that this was not going to be for me.
And why not? What drew you go back to school?
Well, actually, I was working I worked on John B. Anderson's presidential campaign. He was an independent candidate in 1980, and I really admired his courage, and I became a citizen of the U.S. And so that sort of political window made me really become interested in politics. I was a tour guide at Universal Studios, and in between tours, I'd be in the back in this little patio that they had, reading, political philosophy and stuff like that. And so I just became really obsessed with how politics can change the world. And so I came back up north, went to Berkeley, and graduated with degrees in political science and French.
If I was to have spoken to one of your old professors from your time here at Cal, what kind of student would they have said that you were?
I think they would have said that I was an interested, student who raised my hand a lot in class. And
did you sit in the front of the classroom?
I probably sat, certainly in the smaller classrooms, I would have probably sat in the front, because I was so interested in the subject area. Certainly in politics, and in French too.
When you went on to Harvard Law School, you were the editor-in-chief of the Civil Rights and Civil Liberties Law Review. What drew you to choosing civil rights as the policy issue you focused on in law school?
Well, so by the time I went to law school, now we're in the early 80s, or the mid 80s now, and I have made my political transition to be completely democratic, and at that point I had worked on Mondale's campaign. I was really interested in issues of social justice. And I wanted to become a civil rights lawyer, and so I was very active at Harvard in protesting Harvard's investments in South Africa. There was a cluster of students in the law school who were really helping to lead a lot of the student protests during that time. So I was really interested in the inequalities associated with historic racism and how that translated to that day, and I wanted to help combat that. And so I began work on the CRCL, as we called it, the Civil Rights, Civil Liberties Law Review, and was elected as editor-in-chief, and loved it.
You said that you didn't think about a career in politics
No,
until you were
absolutely
asked.
not. No.
Was there one thing that persuaded you more than anything else?
My husband. Really? No, I'm not kidding you. I would not have been able to run, because we had young children at that time, and I would not have been able to run without his support. And I say this frankly to women and men who are running. If you want to run for office, you've got to marry a spouse who is going to be 1,000% supportive.
I read in your book how you thought about whether or not you would be perceived as abandoning your son. He was a year old when you first ran. How did you personally make that decision, and how did you tell your people who are asking to vote for you about?
Yeah, personally, it was truly the conversation that I had with Dan that persuaded me. He you know, he's just such a great dad, and he loves it. If you lined up Dan's sort of characteristics and my characteristics, and you decided which one of these two people, regardless of gender, would be a great parent, a better parent than the other, you pick Dan. Because he is, you know, he is somebody who's very heart-centered. He's very patient. He is, you know, he pressed the flowers and put them in the mailbox with poetry for me. I mean, he's just a great soul. And he loves, you know, he loves looking at babies. And I'm impatient, and I make my lists, and I'm moving. So you would pick him as the parent. And so when we made this decision about who was going to be the primary caregiver and who was going to do that, he stepped up and said, it's something that is really important to me too. Now, he went to Harvard, he went to Yale, he could do anything, he had his own business. He kept his business for a period of time, but when I became governor, he let that go as well, so that he could be the primary person who is responsible for the family, which you really, really need if you're going to go into public life. And on what I told people publicly,
yeah.
You know, when I was running for governor, for example, the previous governor had triplets, and I said, "Are you asking him the same thing?" Because obviously that's that's an unfair game. I really didn't trot out my family. This was really there was private space, and I kept it private.
And what made you decide to come teach at Berkeley?
I went to Berkeley as an undergrad,
right.
And so I know, I love it. Honestly, though, we were not fielding, but we were contemplating a number of different places, and my folks are here still, and I haven't lived near them in 25 years or more, almost 30 years, and they're getting a little fragile, and so it was a chance for us to be near them for a period of time, and this worked out really well. And Chris Edley and Henry Brady were very, very persuasive.
Have you had a favorite teaching moment yet?
Wow, that's a really great question. I just so love this class. I so love the engagement of the students in it. A favorite teaching moment. All teaching moments are my favorite. It's hard for me to think of one favorite moment, but I do enjoy, for example, when we broke down recently into groups to be able to do an analysis of California's economy and where the strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats were, and being able to watch and see students really grappling with these really tough issues and then reporting out about what they would do was really very gratifying. So I'm excited to be able to get to know all these fabulous students, because I know you're teaching, you're in a leadership class, and you all are going to be leading. It's an honor to get to know the future leaders.
What profession other than yours would you want to attempt?
Teaching. Teaching meaning K through 12.
What profession would you never want to attempt?
Race car driving, probably.
What's your favorite word?
Uxorious. That means a man who is foolishly fond of his wife.
I like that. What is your least favorite word?
I hate the B word for women. I really do. I feel like, especially when we say it about one another, that we are our own worst enemies.
What is your favorite food?
Macaroni and cheese.
The Kraft kind or homemade?
Well, Dan's mom makes some really mean macaroni and cheese, so I have to say that, but I'm really big on Kraft too. Kind of anti-macaroni and cheese. It's a bad thing.
What's the last book you read for fun?
Confidence Men, which is the Ron Suskind book. Actually, I'm just in the middle of it, but it's the one that I just most recently bought for fun.
And what was the last album you purchased or listened to?
Probably it was a Black Eyed Peas. I mean, I'm on iTunes, so I just select tracks. So I would imagine it's probably something related to Black Eyed Peas for exercise.
Thank you very, very much. That was really fun.
Yeah. Thanks so much, you guys.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. All right.